Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome us to tonight's edition of Madrasah Al-Mumti'ah's free Nahw and Sarf class. And In Shaa Allah, we'll be continuing on our topic, صوغ Ismul Faa'il min Fi'l Madi. That is formation of Ismul Faa'il from the past tense verb. And in the past two classes, we've explained how do we form Ismul Faa'il from Fi'l Thulathi, which is the three-lettered verb, and Fi'l Ruba'i wal Khumasi. And we explained that for the three-lettered verb, Fi'l Thulathi, forming Ismul Faa'il, we will simply take the verb from a fa'ila or a fa'ila shape into a shape of fa'ilu. And for the 4 letters and 5-lettered verbs, we said that anything more than 3-lettered verbs, that all we have to do is a simple 2-step procedure. The first step is to turn that Fi'l Madi into Fi'l Mudari. Then the second step is that we remove the harf al-mudari and we replace it with a Meem Dammah. And then the second to the last letter, we are going to give it a kasrah. And that is how we transform Fi'l Madi into Ismul Faa'il for any verb that is more than 3 letters. So we have illustrated how we can do that for the 4-lettered verbs, the Ruba'i, and how we do that for the 5-lettered verbs, the Khumasi. So In Shaa Allah, tonight we will be starting with the Fi'l Madi as Sudasi, which is the 6-lettered verb as Sudasi. So how do we form Ismul Faa'il from a Sudasi verb, a 6-lettered verb? Exactly the same procedure that we followed for the 4 letters and the 5 letters. We take the Fi'l Madi. In this case, we have istaf'ala. So we take it to Fi'l Mudari. Then we have what? Yastaf'ilu. Then when we want to turn it to Ismul Faa'il, what do? We remove the harf al-mudari, replace it with a Meem Dammah. Then the second to the last letter, we ensure it is taking a kasrah, and then we have what? Mustaf'ilun. So a very good example is the same Fi'l Sudasi that we used before when we were forming Mudari. Istaghfaro. Is sought for forgiveness. So when we turn it into Fi'l Mudari, it becomes what? Yastaghfiru. He is seeking for forgiveness. Then when we want to make it an Ismul Faa'il, what do? We remove the harf al-mudari and replace it with a Meem Dammah. So it becomes what? Mustaghfirun. We also ensure that our second to the last letter is having what? A kasrah. So we have Mustaghfirun, a person seeking for forgiveness. Another waznu in the Sudasi, the 6-lettered verb, is what? If'alalla. And when we turn it into Fi'l Mudari, it becomes what? Yaf'alilu. When we want to turn it into Ismul Faa'il, we do the same thing. We remove the harf al-mudari and replace it with a Meem Dammah, ensuring that our second to the last letter has a kasrah. So it becomes what? Muf'alilun. A very good example is what? Itma'anna. He is calm. He was calm. He was at peace. So in Fi'l Mudari is what? Yatma'innu. He is being at peace. We hear the Quran says that Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. That with the dhikr of Allah, the heart becomes calm. That is what Mudari. Then we have what? In Ismul Faa'il, it becomes what? Mutma'innun. We remove the harf al-mudari and replace it with a Meem Dammah, and we have what? Mutma'innun. So if we memorize Surah Al-Fajr, we can remember that Allah says what? Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'innatun. A nafs, a soul that is at peace, a soul that is calm. And I know some of us, our names are Mutma'inna. So this is where your name comes from. Mutma'innu. So our last wazn that we'll be taking tonight is what? If'ala. So when we want to turn it into Fi'l Mudari, what do? We turn it, it becomes Yaf'a'ilu. And when we want to make it Ismul Faa'il, we remove the Harful Mudari, replace it with a Meem Dammah, and it becomes what? Mufa'a'ilu. And an example here is what? Ikhshawshana. So when we want to make, when we make this Ikhshawshana, the first step is that we turn it into what? Fi'l Mudari, which is what? Yakhshawshinu. Ikhshawshana means that what? Is moderate. Yakhshawshin, it was moderate, past tense. Yakhshawshinu, he is being moderate, he is exercising moderation. Mukhshawshinun, he is a person that what? That exercises moderation. So that is that for forming Ismul Faa'il from the Sudasi, the 6-lettered verb. So as at this moment we have learnt how we can form our Ismul Faa'il from the 3-lettered verb, the Sulasi, 4-lettered verb, the Rubai, 5-lettered verb, the Khumasi, and the 6-lettered verb, the Sudasi. And this is a very important topic because the Ismul Faa'il is a basis for so many other things in Arabic, as we will later continue to learn. So it is important for us to set this foundation, and that is why we have devoted 3 classes for today. So In Shaa Allah, before we end today's class, the last part is we are now going to examine some of those cases in which Ismul Faa'il is actually applied in Arabic. So while you are learning Arabic, after we have learned how to form the Ismul Faa'il, now I want to learn how do we use it in a sentence. Where does it occur? And that is why we are taking what? Dalalatu Ismul Faa'il. The denotations of Ismul Faa'il. What does Ismul Faa'il denote? Yes, we have learned how do we form Ismul Faa'il. Now we want to actually, now we see an Ismul Faa'il. What does it denote? How, what role does it perform in the language? So the first is what? Ismun Khalisun, the pure noun. So Ismul Faa'il can actually act as a pure noun that is standing on its own. And I will give us some examples to illustrate that. The first is what? Tajirun. Tajirun means what? A trader. So a trader is a noun on its own. You don't need any context to interpret it before it can perform a verb, and it can act as what? As a noun standing on its own. Talibun, a student, is also an Ismul Faa'il, and it stands on its own and works as a pure noun. Mu'allimun, a teacher. So most of us, we always say that what? Mu'allim, ma'alim, ma'alim, or malam, malam. So it comes from what? Mu'allim. So that is the actual Arabic term, and it means what? A teacher. Muhandisun, an engineer, is also an example of what? Ismul Faa'il, acting as a pure noun. The second denotation here is what? The adjective, al-wasfu. So we know that an adjective describes another noun. So Ismul Faa'il can denote a wasfu in the sense that it is describing another noun. So we can use Ismul Faa'il to describe another noun. An example is what? Al-Fi'l Madi. So we'll be mentioning things that what? Al-Fi'l Madi, Al-Fi'l Madi. We'll be mentioning is that the past tense verb. So Al-Fi'l is a verb. Al-Madi in this case is an Ismul Faa'il that comes from Mador, and it is describing this Fa'il. Al-Fi'l Madi. So the function in this place is that it is describing another noun. Unlike here where we have this Ismul Khalisun, where it acts as a pure noun that stands on its own entirely. Another example is Zaydun Salihun. So it means what? Zayd is pious. So the adjective pious is describing Zayd. So we are using it to describe Zayd in this form. So pious on its own, you can look at it and you see that it does not act in the same way as this tajir here will act in a sentence. When you say tajirun, a trader is actually an occupation that is standing on his own. But pious, it has to describe something else. So in this case, it is working as what? As an adjective. Also, we have what? Zainabu sadiqatun. Zainab is truthful. So Zainab is truthful. Sadiqatun is describing Zainab in this place. And as we know that Zainab is a what? Is a feminine noun. So that is why we already have our sadiq, but we had to add ta marbuta to show the femininity. So that is why we have sadiqatun here. So Ismul Faa'il, when we want to use it in a feminine position, where it has to describe a feminine noun, we are going to give it what? A ta marbuta, and it becomes feminine. So this, if you look at our verbs dictionary that we are using in this course, so you will see that it helps us in knowing and identifying the cases in which an Ismul Faa'il is acting either as a pure noun or as an adjective. So if you check these words, check it in your dictionary, so you will see, so if you type it into your verbs dictionary, you will see that it's in a bracket. When it's working as a pure noun, you will see it an N in a bracket, in square brackets, in front of the word in dictionary. While in cases where it actually acts as an adjective, as a wasfu, you will see in square bracket the right word adj, short for adjective. So we can use that to guide ourselves into knowing the situations in which Ismul Faa'il may act as a noun or as an adjective, and how it acts in those positions. So the last that we'll be looking at, because Ismul Faa'il actually does a lot of other functions, it denotes a lot of other things apart from these three we have mentioned here. So but these three are the focus for today's lecture. So the last is what? The active participle, which is that an Ismul Faa'il can actually do the same work that a Fi'l Mudari does, which is what? The hal, it denotes a continuous tense, or mustaqbal, a future tense. So an example is what? Inni sa'imun. So you hear the hadith that what? If somebody wants to fight with you, you tell them that while you are fasting, you say that what? Inni sa'imun, I am fasting. So if you look at the word fasting, it does not come in the form of tajir. It is not a noun that stands on its own, and it is a continuous infinite tense. So, and that is why you see that most of the time when it acts in this position, it usually ends with an ing, just like a Fi'l Mudari. So instead of inni sa'imun, if you say inni asumu, I am fasting, that is what a Fi'l Mudari, and it would have the same meaning as what? Inni sa'imun in this case. Similarly, we have what? Zaidun jalisun. Zaid is sitting. You can also say that what? Zaidun yajlisu. Zaid is what? Is sitting. So you can see that Ismul Faa'il can do the same work as Fi'l Mudari in a sentence, which is what? The hal, the present, or the future. Zaidun yajlisu. Zaid will sit. So it also has what? The same meaning. Aishatu na'imatun. So in the same manner, we have what? Aishatu na'imatun. Aisha is sleeping. So in this case, we can see that na'ima, it comes from what? Nama. So if it were Fi'l Mudari and we wanted to use to denote this, we would just say what? Aishatun tanamu. Aisha is sleeping. So we can see that Ismul Faa'il, a lot of times in the sentences, can also act the same way that what? Ismul Fi'l Mudari acts. So Aishatu na'imatun. We have ta marbuta at the end of this Ismul Faa'il because we are describing a feminine noun. So we can also say what? Aishatun tanamu. So those are examples of how Ismul Faa'il may act in a sentence. It may act as a pure noun, Ismul Khalis. It may act as an adjective, al-wasfu, or it may act as an active participle for the hal and mustaqbal, just like what? Just like the Fi'l Mudari. So we should also note that what? Ismul Faa'il in a feminine, when it is describing a feminine noun, it will have a ta marbuta. So all of this is described in our notes. So if you check the comments in the video, you can see the pinned comments. We have all the notes there with many examples and this explanation. So you can use that to revise over and over. So and that is the end of today's class. So I hope that this will be beneficial knowledge for the speaker and the listener. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.